This is such a sick culture because we're scared for all kinds of reasons and intergenerational trauma that we repeat and repeat and repeat. And then the only thing we can do is polarize and hate. And so the consequences are so enormous that it's not just you protect yourself, you influence everything that's happening between everybody in the world. My name is Sanne. And if I try to pronounce my last name in English, it sounds stupid, but it's Bjerg. I'm from Denmark, Copenhagen, Denmark. And I'm mostly a writer. Mostly. Sometimes I do sculpture and collages and just think. I think I went through so many transformations in my life that sometimes I can sort of have the feeling that I can hardly remember the first ones. And it's also, the age thing of realizing, okay, things do go in kind of in circles or in spirals. In a way, I'm very much into spirals these days as a way of storytelling things that are not linear. And it seems to me that a person's development, at least mine, which is obviously the only one I really know about, is not at all linear. When I was around 7 or 8, I became a Native American boy. I had another name that I used most of the time. I had a friend, and she was a girl. And I took this identity out of the games and into school, and I was just dressed, and I had my knife with me in school, and everything was just... And it was perfect, and nobody... Oh, they complained about the knife in the school, but that I had this boy's identity, no problem. Nobody cared. So then I went into puberty, and it was like, okay, the boys here, they're cute. No, let's try dancing, even though I'm 2 heads higher, taller than them, and it's a very awkward thing. So I was like schooled into heterosexuality. There were not many other options, I would say. So when I started being attracted to women and girls, it was like, oh, this is complicated, this is difficult. But still, then it had become something that could also be political, so I started wearing these lesbian signs, and I had a couple of flings with girls and women. But then when I had started in writer's school, it was like, oh, one thing is that I'm a writer and odd and weird to other people. Do I really have to also be gay? And so I met a man and then said, okay, I got married and was married for 25 years with a man. And it was fine and it was okay because I have always been able to sort of move in and out of many ways of being. And some of it is because it's very easy for me to try to adapt to be kind to people. What I've been through, a transformation later in life, has been like more of a coming to terms with not wanting to mask things anymore. Just as wearing big dresses felt like being in drag, the butch thing also felt as if I was being in drag. It was like performing a gender. So the last couple of years, or 5 or 6 years, I've been really trying to say, I don't want to perform a gender. There's a feminism in saying, I keep my female body and I can be whoever I am with this body. I don't have to change into a male to be allowed to live in the free way that only males can do in our culture. So in a way, there's a statement about staying female. I probably heard the word feminism the first time when I was, must have been 5 or 6. I was in 1970 or 71 when my mom was in the Women's Lib in Copenhagen, the first wave of, they had these basis groups, and there was an occupied house in the center of Copenhagen where she went for these meetings, and I went with her because, I don't know, I just had to go with her. And what I recall is that it was so freezing cold, and there was a little fire, and it was just something about freezing in a room with a lot of women. And that was my first touch with with feminism, which was called the Red Stockings at that time in that area and in that period. And I think to me it was, first it was just fun. It was like, yeah, we go out and do something that's different. And since there were often conflicts between my parents, it was like, yeah, fun to go a place where there are just women and they talk, and my mom seemed happy. Since 1970, so many things have happened in feminism and in my life that have been sort of crossing ways in at so many levels that I think it's been like a prism what feminism has meant to me. Sometimes it's been important, sometimes it's been like, yeah, okay, done with that. Let's move on to the next level of things. And then after sort of 9/11 and everything that happened in the early 2000s, sort of the decline of hope again, I think I slowly came into essentially being more political, being more anti-capitalist and anti-patriarchy, and then slowly also realizing, okay, this has also to do with feminism. So it's like a re-encountering, reintegration of something about feminism that for me was like, okay, it was done in the 70s and I don't have to do it. And then I'm realizing slowly that, it has to be done and I have to do it too, or be with it. One of the ways that things changed after 9/11 for me was first that I had a postnatal depression, moving through that, and then I had burnout, and those things together with bringing up my son made me reconsider my place in the world and the way the world I was interacting with the world and how society actually was functioning. I had sort of reclined from the critical stuff that was my childhood and thought, okay, I want to cooperate with the world. But then after that, I realized there's something completely wrong. When I became a mother and surrendered to the fact that I had a body who was capable of doing that, and it took a long time and it was really tough entering that state. And I remember when my son was like half a year or 1 year old, I really had trouble connecting, and someone had to tell me, try to sit next to, a therapist had to tell me, try to sit next to his crib, whatever it is, while he's sleeping, and just feel him with your heart. It was just a blast of feeling connection, and I think actually that was the first time I felt it, at least consciously, and after I've been a baby myself, probably, to just feel that connection and opening my heart and feeling, okay, this creature depends on me. Realizing that there's a heart connection and that there's a soul, that was also something that didn't exist until I was 36. In that world, we were so anti-religious and political that the soul had been banished completely. So getting in touch with that and realizing, there is some part of me that has a completely different way of being with the world through what I learned from being with my son, and learning that this is the way I essentially want to be with everything and everyone. That instead of protecting myself and not feeling other people, if I was allowing myself to actually feel what I felt. But that is so hard in a culture that teaches you not to feel. But learning it and slowly learning how to open up to other people. The whole thing about vulnerability, I think it was Brené Brown that put me on the track of that, which had also been like, whoa, I don't want to be vulnerable. That's shit, stinks. It's just a bad part of being a woman. I don't want to be vulnerable. And then the way she talks about it was like an epiphany for me. I think one thing we need to realize is that freedom is a shitty concept in many ways, because it's unreal, it's unrealistic. We are never free in that way. We can never be, if we want to be free, we have to cut ourselves away from everything that is giving us life. So the whole idea in modern society that freedom is something we want to achieve is a dead end. We freeze and go numb and die inside if we don't surrender to the interconnectedness of everything and everybody. Donna Haraway says, staying with the trouble, to say, okay, it's bloody hard, fucking hard is what I want to say, to relate to other people, to be in the binds of relationships and to know and face what we're doing to the world around us. But there's nothing else to do than go with it, no matter how long it takes. And that's really one of the things when I'm thinking about mental health and the regeneration of the mental ecosystem, is learning how to be with the tough stuff, the hard stuff. To me, it's essential to think of ourselves as nature, as part of the whole. Whether you're like spiritual or whatever, it doesn't really matter. We're constantly in a situation of exchanging energy and emotions and maybe a billion things that our science hasn't found ways to describe and name, but it all influences how we feel and what we do with the surrounding world that we're interacting with. And I think that we need to find that level where there's some kind of resonance. When we have resonance with other people, with nature, with the things we are doing and being in, we can thrive. We can sort of be in our core and find some kind of homeostasis where we're not closing ourselves off and we are not being overwhelmed or sort of have to surrender to the tsunami of things, but we can sort of have a vibrant way of being in and with the world and with each other, which is, I think, our natural state, but which our culture, especially through the last 2,000 years, has ruined. So how did we get out into this shit? And it's basically, I start with monotheism. Go up from there, because everything that was built on that, of separation from nature, of man over nature, man over women, white over black, it's all these patterns are built up on top of each other, and all of them add to our hopeless connection to the world, or disconnection from the world and from each other. To go from a growth mindset to a care mindset is maybe the way that is most important to change the course of the machine, to stop the machine. There's no survival without care. But we all think it's our individual problem. And that's why it's so important to show everybody who is in a mental health crisis that this is not you, there's something wrong with. It's the system that you're stuck in. The creative process as a state is like breathing. It's a necessary thing, and I wish everybody would get the possibility of doing that and being in that, because that is such an aliveness that I think is core for us to be healthy.